No one else in the band got along with me and Greg as well or better than we did. You go off and crash people. That is, I called him about every other day when you were sick. He had a very serious illness. He was once fired from the band. He helped start and arrested for pointing a gun at his wife. He screamed in rage backstage, but the next morning he played a beautiful piece. The room was dead quiet after that. In the American South, Dickey Betts was an untamable artist. He wrote Ramblin Man, the only Allman Brothers band hit to make it into the Billboard Top 10, and Jessica, a wordless symphony that made the world realize Southern rock had real emotional depth. He also burned every bridge. He lost friends, relationships, and names so he could live and play music the way he thought was right. And Betts was the band's wounded, rebellious, and hard-to-control soul. If Dwayne Allman was the fallen angel, then Betts was the living soul. You could hear the loneliness, desire, and pain in every note of his guitar playing, as if he were telling his own life story. There were no words, just one riff. This is the story of Dickey Betts' life. He was a genius who didn't hold back, a rebel who never gave up, and an artist whose music lives on even though he died quietly in 2024. Plus, are you sure you understand a legend just by listening to a song? Beginnings. He was born in West Palm Beach, Florida, on December 12, 1943. That's not where he was made, though. He lived in Bradenton as a kid. In a small farming town on the southwestern coast of Florida, time seemed to move more slowly as orange trees went on forever and dirt roads kicked up red dust. His family wasn't rich or well-known, but the music of the American South was always in the air. His quiet, heavy-drinking father did odd jobs and played the mandolin and banjo at community events. She often listened to the radio while cooking and loved dance music. When Betts was a kid, he lived with Bill Monroe, Hank Williams, and the Carter family every day. Music wasn't just a dream, it was right there on the front porch. Betts started playing an instrument when he was 6 years old. His first instrument was a ukulele. He then moved on to the fiddle, mandolin, and banjo. But he didn't know this was his calling until he played his first electric guitar, which he borrowed from a friend. Little Dickey would repeatedly take the guitar to the porch in the afternoon and play the same songs he heard on the radio. There was no one who taught him how to read music. He heard and felt things to learn them. He always had the spirit of an artist, but not the dreamy, delicate kind. Instead, he was street smart and relied on music to stay alive. As early as that, it was clear that he was rebellious, stubborn, and hard to control. Regulations annoyed Betts. He once dropped out of a church music class because the teachers made him follow the textbook. "I don't play music to be believed. I play to feel alive," he said about his youth in a rare interview. While there were no major family deaths, Betts' childhood wasn't a happy one either. Men were told to be tough, strong, and never weak when he was growing up. Anyone's feelings should be put into a glass or a fist. Unfortunately, Betts picked a different way to go. He put all of his feelings into the guitar. Being soft, remembering, hurting, and dreaming were all okay for him there. Rather than failing, he quit school when he was 16 because it wasn't teaching him what he needed to know. He started to play in bands in the Tampa Bay area, like the Jokers, the Soul Children, and the Second Coming. These bands played in bars, clubs, and county fairs all over the area. People brought guns to a bar where he played once, but no one shot while I played Sweet Home Alabama. They did not speak. I knew I could make it through that with music. The kid from Bradenton with long hair who wore leather jackets and high boots at the time had no idea that he was carrying the seeds of a musical change in a style that didn't even have a name yet. A style of playing the guitar that no one had ever named. Betts didn't need a name, though. A guitar, a stage, and some southern wind to brush his collar after each song were all he needed. Southern rock wasn't even born yet, but its heart was beating fast. It was already singing in the hot Florida summers, the early drunk nights, and the first riffs Dickey Betts played on a stolen guitar. Starting out in your work. Dickey Betts played guitar in bar bands, local touring acts, and dive bars before his name was on the cover of Southern rock legends. His music often had to fight with the sound of beer bottles popping and drunk people laughing. But it was in those dusty, rough-edged venues, without labs or sound engineers, where he sharpened his instincts. Music lived or died in those places at the moment. Betts played with bands like the Jokers and then the Second Coming, a psychedelic rock band from Florida in the 1960s. It was with this band that he started to play with dual harmonies and long stretches of jamming. The other people in the band weren't famous, but Betts quickly became known as the best guitarist in the Southern underground scene. Mostly, he knew how to make a solo into a story. His music was a mix of rock, blues, and country. During this time, Betts met Berry Oakley, a young bassist known for his strong groove, who would change his life. Oakley became not only Betts' close friend, but also the link between her and Dwayne and Greg Allman, two brothers who were looking for something beyond themselves. Dwayne Allman moved back to the South in 1969 after a failed run with the band Hourglass in California. They were determined to make a band that wasn't quite blues or rock, but was on the edge of both. It only took Dwayne one jam session to know he had found the right person. Betts and Allman were different, but they made each other whole. The first one was brave and sharp, and the second one was deep and heartfelt. They didn't play to show off their skills. It was like they were two halves of the same spirit, moving together without colliding. Greg Allman sang lead vocals, Berry Oakley played bass, and Butch Trucks, Jai Johani, and Jima Johansson played drums. The new band actually started in March 1969 in Jacksonville, Florida. The band was called the Allman Brothers Band because Dwayne came up with the idea, but Dickey Betts was always an important part of the group. Betts thought of this group as more than just a band. It was like a second family, a spot where he could give in to his urges and play 10-minute jams without anyone cutting him off. He and Dwayne were the first guitarists to use harmonies, which are two rhythmic lines that flow together like two rivers. This sound would become a trademark of Southern rock. Fans didn't really like their first record, the Allman Brothers Band, 1969, but critics did. Betts wrote a jazz-influenced track in honor of Elizabeth Reed, and it quickly became one of the band's best live songs. Betts made his first statement. He was more than just a guitarist. He used sound to tell stories. The Allman Brothers Band found a middle ground between California psychedelia and the British invasion in the rock world. Betts's quiet architecture helped them do this, bringing the grit, sadness, and pride of the American South to the stage. Dickey Betts helped start a whole new era in American rock music, from the 20-minute jams at Fillmore East to the lyrical riffs in songs like Dreams and Revival. While his job was still new, Betts was no longer a hired hand. Soon, he would become a legend. A successful career. It was shocking for the Allman Brothers Band when Dwayne Allman died in a motorbike accident in 1971. Their boss was no longer in the band. A group of singing brothers had been split up. Some people whispered it, but everyone looked at Dickey Betts. Absolutely no one was ready. Betsy knew that he had to step up or the band would break up. He did step up, but not with strong words. Instead, his guitar spoke louder than ever. Betts did more than just play lead guitar when Dwayne wasn't there. He started writing more, playing for longer, and singing more, and the band went from being sad to making a lot of money. Betts was the main person who worked on Brothers and Sisters, which came out in 1973. He made Jessica, a 7-minute instrumental song that is full of feeling but doesn't have any singing or lyrics. It wasn't just a song. During the guitar chat, he talked about how much he missed Dwayne, how happy he was to be a dad, and how he thought there was a type of music that could help people get over loss. But Ramblin Man, a song he wrote, sang, and helped make the band's first and only top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, really made Dickey Betts a hero. It was not only the most popular Southern rock song ever, but it was also a great change of direction, adding country rock elements that were both easy to understand and complicated enough to keep the art form's purity. Between 1973 and 1976, the Allman Brothers Band ruled the biggest stages in America. Not only was Dickey Betts the guitarist, but also the major singer and songwriter for the band. He was also sometimes the glue that held them together while Greg Allman got into drug and legal trouble. At the same time, Betts started to feel like the band was constraining his creativity by the constant presence of the Allman name. He put out his first record by himself, Highway Call, in 1974. It was a pleasant surprise. There are no long jam band solos or Southern electric blues. Instead, there is a simple, rootsy mix of folk country jazz with steel guitar and fiddle. The public saw a different side of Betts for the first time. She was soft and wandering, sitting on a wooden porch with a quiet smile and playing an acoustic guitar. Betsy didn't end there. His own band, Dickey Betts and Great Southern, was formed in 1977. Albums like Great Southern, 1977, and Atlanta's Burning Down, 1978, made it clear that he didn't want to be a copy of himself. To play what he called Americana before the word existed, he broke away from the all-man sound and even from what fans thought he should play. Betts taught young musicians his style of twin harmony and rare live improvisation during this time. He also went on a lot of tours. He became a real band leader not because of scandal or buzz in the media, but because he had a guitar and a group of loyal players. Betts stayed a core songwriter when the Allman Brothers got back together in the 1980s and 1990s, but he never gave up his leading role with Great Southern. In the late 1990s, he led the band through the retro rock era, making sure that every show and every 20-minute live jam kept Southern rock alive. He got Great Southern back together in 2000 and put out a number of live records, including Live at the Odeon and Instant Live. Reviewed, well, even though they weren't very popular. Betts never played what the crowd wanted or tried to follow trends. He always did what he had to do. After several years of retirement, he revealed in 2018 that he would be going back on stage, but this time with his son Dwayne Betts. This tour was seen by many as a passing of the torch. Like his dad, Dwayne played the guitar, but he was quieter. At the time, their show at that year's Peach Festival was thought to be the last time people would see the Southern guitar soul blaze on stage. But now, 2 generations have set it on fire. Soon after that, Dickey Betts had a brain bleed. He took a long time to get better, and in the end, he stopped acting altogether. His main thing was that he never stopped making songs. From bar bands to sold-out Fillmore shows, from the front row with the Allman Brothers to solo tours with Great Southern, Betts proved one thing over the course of 50 years. Music is fine on its own. Being honest is all it takes. They played and lived as if it were the only thing left to believe in for Dickey Betts. Scams and tragedies. A lot of artists fail because they aren't good enough. Others, because they do not have enough chances. Unfortunately for Dickey Betts, he had too much ability and an ego that no one, not even he, could control. By the 1990s, Betts was lost in booze and the feeling that he was being suffocated by the heritage he had helped build. For fun, he didn't drink. One of the things that made him drink was the pain that Dwayne Allman's twin guitar used to ease. But after Dwayne died, nothing else could. The band had grown into a huge machine, and Betts, who liked to be free, felt suffocated by the demands of his gigs, shows, and the pressure to live up to a reputation that had long shackled him. He got mad, drank, and sometimes just showed up and didn't say anything. He was arrested in 1996 at a strip club for not leaving after making a noise. The headline that said, "From Fillmore to Jail, Dickey Betts Back in Trouble Again," put his picture on the front page. There were arguments among fans. A few people said he needed help. Some people were direct. Betts is ruining what the Allman family has done. It wasn't as bad as the collapse in 2000, though. Dickey Betts got the one thing that no musician ever wants: tension behind the scenes, weeks of unexplained absences, and erratic behavior during practices. For facts, the Allman Brothers band fired him that way. Meeting and call were canceled. He didn't get a response. He got a letter in the mail telling him that the band would continue the summer tour without him. The guy who wrote the band's biggest hit, Ramblin Man, kept the Allman Brothers going after Dwayne died, and once called Greg Allman "my brother." On stage is no longer in the band he helped start. He didn't whisper. Betts took legal action. A lot of media came out. Fans drew borders. Some sided with Dickey, while others with Greg. Some people thought it was one of the worst betrayals in American rock history. Some people thought it was a fitting end for a man who couldn't keep himself in check. He just told Betts, "I wasn't the problem. They were still alive because of me." Not long after that, the Allman Brothers went on tour again, but this time without Jessica, Blue Sky, or that wild, unexpected edge. They were better and tighter, but they were missing something that only Betts could add: the feeling that the music was being played by someone who had been through it. After that, Betts went on tour with his own band, but there was never quite the same spark again. The press stopped writing about him, and his audiences shrank. Those who used to be with him were now standing by themselves. Despite winning a Grammy, he still played Jessica. But this time, it wasn't a happy song. People had forgotten about that person, so it was like hearing them again. Betts didn't die of too much drug. He did not lose his mind. That person did not kill themselves. But in an industry where artists are both praised and panned for being on time, he turned into a shadow of himself. Even though he was still alive, playing, and singing. Accidents, gunshots, and falls were not what killed Dickey Betts. The thing that hurt him the most was realizing that the world he helped build had changed and no longer had room for him. He dealt with it by carrying his guitar forward in silence and anger. Do not say sorry, beg, or look back. Everyday life. While they were together, Betts's drinking and drug use got worse over time, and their life together became more like a war. Most shocking was when Donna called the cops to their house in 1996. She said in the report that Betts had aimed a gun at her head in a fit of rage after using drugs and cocaine. Donna wouldn't speak, so the case was never brought to court. However, the event left a permanent mark on his personal life. Donna was arrested in 2017 for pointing a gun at a group of school kids playing sports near their house. This stirred up new rumors about the violent past of the family. Even so, Betts never left her. In a strange way, they stayed together until the end, like two survivors in the same trench, even though there were no more fights to win. Even when his marriages fell apart and his life was in constant chaos, Betts never lost his love for his children. This was especially true for his son Dwayne Betts, who was named after his musical brother Dwayne Allman, whom Betts once called his partner. Nobody could control Dickey Betts as a musician. He was the type of man that no one could stay with for long in love. Betts got married 5 times. He seemed to attract women with his passion and talent, and they were mesmerized by the tender spontaneity that came out when he played the guitar. But over time, his impulsivity, sudden anger, and the long, cold silences that followed his drinking binges put them out. While Betts's early women were not well known, people who knew him well said that when he loved with all his heart and gave the other person everything he had, holding nothing back. And maybe that's why all of his early marriages ended in tears, anger, and courtrooms full of bad words. His 4th marriage was a turning point in his life. Donna Betts became his wife, a woman with a strong will who wasn't easily scared. He took Donna with him on the road in the late 1980s and early 1990s. She was more than just his wife. As his tour manager, she got into a fight with him on stage and told him to put down the bottle before a show. Early on, they were like two warriors. One was a fiery artist, and the other was a woman who wouldn't give in. Dwayne Betts wasn't just a kid. He meant to take over. He played, wrote, and acted on stage in a way that made Dwayne seem like a younger Dickey, still full of dreams and not yet crushed by reality. Betts never seemed like a nice and loving father. Publicly, he didn't say, "I love you." Betts looked at Dwayne with pride and quiet. Feeling when they performed Blue Sky and Ramblin Man together on stage in 2018. That was all that needed to be said. Betts stayed out of the public eye for a long time after having a stroke in 2022. Donna took care of him, and Dwayne sang for the family. Betts stopped performing, fighting, and being torn by the weight of fame in the months before he died. He lived a quiet life with his small family, watching his son continue the path he started. There were some things Dickey Betts did wrong with women. Friends and family he loved were hurt by him. He ended relationships that seemed like they would never end. Nevertheless, he never ran away from any of it. In love and in song, he was always truthful. And his honest, raw, painful truth made him a real, memorable person, even if it didn't make him happy in the long run. Not just to fans, but also to people who loved him, then left him, and then came back. Legacy and impact. Dickey Betts never needed an official tribute show or to be ranked #1 on the charts over and over again to show how valuable he was. The past of American rock, especially Southern rock, will never be the same without him. He wrote most of the songs on Ramblin Man, so it wasn't just a hit. For the Free South, he wrote a song that every American with roots in the country could relate to. People don't just hear a guitar when Jessica plays the Grammy-winning instrumental. They see an open sky, an endless journey, and the soul of a wanderer who doesn't fit anywhere but in the music. Betts was the first person to combine a Gibson Les Paul guitar with conventional blues patterns and 5-string banjo phrasing. This created a unique style of Southern rock that was influenced by jazz and country music. He and Dwayne Allman didn't play a battle when they played guitar together. Two spirits moving together. Artists like Warren Haynes, Derek Trucks, Charlie Starr of Blackberry Smoke, and even John Mayer have said that Betts was the best example of grit and beauty in American guitar playing. Also, he was one of the few acts who made it through all of the changes within the Allman Brothers band. They wrote about everything from sudden deaths to court disputes while keeping the Southern feel in every song. There were no stage effects, electronic tricks, or creative tricks in any of his songs. Betts used his music to tell stories, and people could understand every word. His impact wasn't just technical, it was a mindset, a way of life. Play from the heart, and don't change what you believe in just to please other people. In a time when the market controls everything, Dickey Betts was brave enough to go against the grain and accept flaws as long as they were real. His honesty made him a role model for all independent artists. It's possible that Betts' most important gift isn't on vinyl records, but in the breath of the next generation. This famous person's son, Dwayne Betts, is more than just a name. Like his father, he plays music with fire, Southern pride, and no airs or fancy words. The Southern rock torch has been carried by Dwayne and the Allman Betts Band into the 21st century, keeping Dickey Betts' impact strong without changing who they are. There were no big claims or autobiographies. The song that Dickey Betts left behind says it all. Complex but free, angry but emotional, highly personal but able to reach millions of people. He is missed, but his memory lives on with every note of Blue Sky. Last year's. After having a stroke in 2018 that needed emergency surgery on the brain, Dickey Betts never went back on stage. His home in Osprey, Florida, was quiet. It was on the water, so the sound of the waves took the place of cheers, and the guitar next to his bed became his last friend. He didn't go on tours or stand under stage lights anymore, but he still liked to sit on the porch and look out at the water, where he used to fish when he was younger. Neighbors said they saw him singing old songs and mumbling melodies that were never released. He would also sit there for hours without speaking, as if he were talking to someone who had died a long time ago. With a long fight against chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and memory loss, Dickey Betts died on April 18, 2019. He died in the place he had chosen to spend the rest of his life, with his wife, children, grandkids, and the music that would never end. Older than 80 years. There was no big tribute or flood of tweets from famous people. That day, however, was America's loss of the last honest sound of the Southern guitar. Not fame was his legacy. It was true music, which is something that not all artists are brave enough to do. He didn't give in, follow trends, or change his way to fit in. He also never said sorry for what he did in the past. He made art, loved, fought, and grieved in his own way. After that, he left like a tired wanderer, without any fuss or requests for praise. Adoring Dickey Betts was never simple. In life and in music, he was complicated, reckless, and easy to get wrong. But for those who were willing to wait and really listen, every note he played and every choice he made, even the ones that turned out to be wrong, had a quiet honesty to them. He failed to make a huge company. A brand wasn't made by him. He did not leave a big statement behind. He did leave behind something else, though. The sound of a Southern guitar. It wasn't loud or polished, but it was so full of feeling that it stopped you in your tracks. Betts decided to live like a man from another time, in a time when everything has to be perfect, staged, and go viral. He left the flaws, tangles, and scars in his tunes because that's the only way the music could be real. Listen a little more carefully to Ramblin Man or Blue Sky today. You can feel the presence of a man who wasn't trying to live forever somewhere in the solo. His only goal was to follow the call of freedom. When something important happened in your life, did you ever listen to Dickey Betts' music? Music is more than just sound. It's memory and feeling. Share it in the comments. It's the only thing that the dead have left behind. Coming up next is a story about an artist who has a unique way of living and making sure they are never forgotten.